to... now we are live. Okay.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bina Khan. This is the lovely Trinette.
Hi.
Trinette is as you can see, beautiful, gorgeous model. She has a very interesting approach to skin and life, I guess.
Yeah.
Her handle on Instagram, in fact, is rich in color and life, which is, I thought, so interesting and exciting that there's a model at the sort of top end of Pakistani fashion who is discussing skin tone and natural hair texture and all of these topics. So she was a natural person for me to call for this, for our South Asian Heritage Month celebration. And I've already started her skin, and we're going to show you sort of South Asian beauty practices. I think we all know that we love a smoky kajal eye, so we'll definitely be doing that on her and just having a bit of general chit chat. I'm a makeup artist. I've been doing makeup for 25 years and banging the drum for brown is beautiful from the beginning, facing a lot of resistance to begin with, but I think now we can see the tide has turned, yes?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I've done a basic base on Trinette, acknowledging her skin tone, but I haven't yet made her brown skin pop. So I thought that would be fun for you guys to see. If you do sort of a plainish base, how do you make your skin look even more glorious and beautiful? Because it is. So while I do that, I'm going to ask Trinette how I've deliberately not spoken to her too much.
Yes.
Even though we've been shooting together for the last couple of days and we've both been tested, so we're just being safe with my mask. But even though we've been chatting for the last couple of days, I've deliberately not asked her about her journey because I thought it would be interesting to be organically interested in the first instance and for you guys to learn about her while I learn about her. So, Trinette, when did you start modeling?
So I started modeling, it's been about a year and I want to say a half now.
Okay.
So, when COVID hit, I had just graduated and so I studied fine arts actually. And I had graduated and everything just kind of stopped. The whole world was on lockdown. And my mom actually came to me one day and she told me, hey, why don't you do something with your time? Because you're not doing anything and you just graduated, so do something worthwhile. And so I had a friend who was really into photography and she and I collaborated and she clicked a few pictures of me, a few portraits, and I decided that I'd start my own blog. And I started with Rich in Color and Life, as you all know. So I started clicking pictures of myself, really with my phone on self-timer. I would keep my phone on self-timer on my windowsill, and I just run and click my pictures, and then it was really a workout.
Right.
And so I started posting my pictures, and it was just something that I started to do with my time, really. I didn't think much of it. I didn't think that anything was going to come out of it. I never thought of modeling. I never thought I could be a model.
Really?
I never intended for any of this to happen. Modeling just kind of happened for me. I know in university, a lot of people would tell me, you should model, you're so pretty, this and that. But I never believed anyone. I never thought that could be a possibility for someone who looked like me.
Really? And when you say someone who looked like me, you mean your skin tone?
Absolutely. I mean my skin tone. And I really thought that this was one of the main reasons why I couldn't be a part of our media or our beauty community or any of that. Because I'd never seen a girl like me on TV. I'd never seen a girl like me in our ads or in our TV commercials or on billboards. And so for me, that was just I wouldn't even say a dream because it's just something that I'd never even thought was possible.
It's like outside of your frame of reference.
Completely just when people would say that to me, I'd be like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, me, a model? No, not for me. Not gonna happen, So I thought maybe I could, get into fashion somehow because I always had an interest in makeup and in clothes and jewelry and all of that fun stuff. So, I was just blogging just for the fun of it, honestly.
Right.
And then I started tagging magazines and just people in general. And a few brands approached me. I did a lot of things for free. Because I mean, I was like, wow, this is fun. Why not? I mean,
Right.
it's better than clicking your own pictures. You have someone else click
Yeah.
nice pictures for you, so why not? And then bigger brands started approaching me. And I remember this one brand told me, listen, how much do you charge? And I ran to my dad and I said, you get money for this? What? That's insane. And then one thing just led to another, and now I'm a model, I guess. So
You are
yeah,
very
that's
much
my-
a model. There's no guessing. Look at that.
So that's my story. Yeah. So it just kind of I just went with my gut and embraced all the opportunities that were coming my way, and I'm really so proud, and I feel so happy that when I started modeling, everyone was always really, really welcoming. So no one ever made me feel like, what's like you shouldn't be doing this. Or if anything, I've always just received love from whoever I've worked with so far. So yeah, I mean, a lot of acceptance, and a lot of just love so far.
That's really beautiful, and it's so interesting that you bring up representation, which I think we were discussing this together as well. That if you don't get represented, if your kind of face doesn't get represented, then it's very hard to imagine that you are beautiful. So if we're always being shown, a Caucasian style or a fairer South Asian, and it's always this obsession with fairness, and you watch like those matchmaking shows, and it's all about the girl needs to be tall and fair and a doctor, but she shouldn't now practice that stuff because come on now.
She
has
has
to
to
stay
look after
home.
the kids.
Yeah. Your 15 years of study, that was just so you could get married, So it's so interesting that you bring that up because through my work, and I have a very warm skinned mom, and, it's always been to me, she's glamorous and beautiful, and I can't understand thinking of warm skin as, I don't know, some sort of a handicap. So growing up, I really, really didn't understand when people said, warm skin is not a beautiful thing. And I just genuinely be puzzled about that because in my family, there is that representation where a very mixed bag of colors. My mom is from Hyderabad, Dakkan. One of my first cousins, who's definitely the beauty of the family, is, very rich, dusky beauty. So within my family, because of that representation, well, not by choice, but they're just there, I always thought of that as beautiful. So I never struggled to see that beauty, but I realized that in many families that you're not so fortunate, and I never heard anybody praise anybody because they were fair, and I never looked at anything in a way that didn't sort of allow me to see the glamour and the beauty in every skin tone. And when I started work, I started banging this drum of brown is beautiful from the beginning because as a young makeup artist, they would ask me, please make me fairer.
Really? So
Really?
models would come to you and actually.
Models, brides,
Okay.
And and models would put in the blue lenses, and brides would routinely ask me, hey, could you please make me fairer? And I just found that so strange. And I would get into a long conversation with each bride, though it's very hard to change somebody's mindset on their wedding day, But I would have this conversation about, but can you tell me why fairer skin is better? And like, you know how it is, Saas bolegi. Like, Saas will say what? That I don't like your skin, it's not much you can do about that. You can't take it off and put on another skin suit. So if you're going to paint yourself one color, it seemed very Alice in Wonderland, the evil queen having the queen of hearts
Changing someone's
painting the red roses white or the white roses red, whichever way it is. I just thought it was such a bizarre concept that you want me to make you another color. How strange. So I would try and talk them into realizing that with your brown skin it's beautiful already. There's so many tones to play with, and I'm having fun pulling out Trinette stones in front of you. So I really found this a very shocking thing. And then I understood it's down to representation. If you don't see it as beautiful, how are you going to
know that it's
know it's
right?
beautiful if you don't show it? representation is everything.
That's
So
true.
my clientele became self-selecting, and it became people who are interested in having their own skin tone celebrated. So my feed became full, very multicolored feed, and I got again and again messages from people saying that I never saw my face is beautiful, but I can see this bride. I can see she's got warm skin. I can see she's got my kinds of features. I'm seeing her as beautiful, so I guess that makes me beautiful. And that is, that's what you're here for, right? Is to make people feel beautiful. And Trinette, I think, is a huge part of this. Now, she's all over the Pakistani fashion world now. You're the face of Sana Safinas. And in fact, Sana was telling us yesterday, day before yesterday, when we met her, we were all doing this shoot together. And she said that she's been our biggest billboard to date, had Trinette on the billboard. So now we're very much pushing um, all shades of beauty, and even beauty companies now are importing colors that, I'm not sure if you can sort of name a brand, but I'll just show you the color. You know, these colors are suddenly available in the Pakistani market that a year ago, 2 years ago, were not there. And it's down to one girl. I spoke to the company and I said, "This is so amazing." And she said, "I'm a warm skinned girl, and I found it really offensive that these big companies are only importing these pale ivory colors as if the rest of us don't exist."
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. So Trinette is a huge part of representation for us now.
Yeah.
So she would not, now nobody will have the experience you had, which is growing up and never having seen a face like this in the Pakistani media. Now we have a face all over the place, which
and
is like that.
I feel like, for me, my story is it's so interesting to me how, as a child, I was always told that I'm not beautiful.
No, really?
Yes, from just random strangers. Like, I remember the very first time someone said something to me was when I was, I think, 4 years old. I was at this public theme park, and a child my own age came up to me and looked at me, pointed at me, and called me black. And I remember
like that's
feeling
a bad thing, right?
like it's a bad thing. And then a bunch of kids came and they just laughed at me and they looked at me and they all chanted the same thing. And I remember feeling so confused as a child.
Oh my boo! That's terrible.
It's alright. I've come a long way from that, but it just goes to show.
For 4-year-old you. Oh.
I know. How I feel sad for myself. And I remember going home and asking my parents and telling them, "Listen, this happened. Like, is there something wrong with me?" And that was a conversation that they had to have with me at the time. And then also, like, in school, college, things like that, like calling me all sorts of things, was just like, I think we've all been through
something.
Some
it's
form
always
of
something.
racism or bullying. And for me, I've had to deal with my fair share of racism and colorism. And I feel like now I'm at a place where I can proudly say that, I don't care what you think, because I like who I am and I love the way that I look now.
Me too.
But and what a joy. To really feel that kind of love for yourself, to really accept who you are, no matter how you look or what you are or who you are. That is so empowering, and that gives you the confidence to then do whatever you want to do and be whoever you want to be. And that's so important. And I feel like that's what I represent, and that's what I at least hope to represent. For me, it's more than beauty. It's more than just looking a certain way or being a certain way. It's really just learning to love yourself. And imagine if each and every one of us truly felt that way about ourselves. Imagine the things that we'd be able to do. And the places we'd be able to be.
There's a lot of wasted energy. I'm just going to spritz your face, yeah? Shut. I have, by the way, been warming up Trinette's face just to, segue a little to the left of the important conversation. I've been using a contour powder that is beautiful and warm. This is the color. And I've been pulling out the gorgeous deeper tones of Trinette's face. And now I'm going to use a gorgeous gold highlighter, which I've slightly tapped already. And I'm going to spritz her face and use more of this. And it's going to start to bring out the thing I've noticed about Asian skin, and I've seen it in the black community as well, that there's a rich glow to the skin.
Yeah, very reflective skin.
It's very reflective skin. So if you sort of powder down your base like this, for me, this is not, I mean, she looks smooth and even and all that jazz, and we've given her shadows, but we want that beautiful, rich glow of the skin to come back. So if you look at her neck, I've already done it. But if you look at Trinette's skin in general, this is looking a little, I won't say ashy because I've used the right warm colors for her, but you want to bring that gorgeous, rich, kind of new bottle, it's very tactile skin. So I'm going to spritz it with just a hydrating mist. And while it's damp, I'm going to bring in this glow. So then it's sort of, we're trying to imitate what, God has granted you already. We're trying to uh, give you skin that is as beautiful as your own skin, but, pushes those, what I call the unjnich, pushes your highlights and your contours, pushes the nuances and the contours of your face and the planes of your face further, while acknowledging and celebrating your color and trying to give you back, what your naked skin, because human skin naked with moisturizer, with a bit of sunlight, I mean, we can all try and imitate it with makeup, but there's nothing more gorgeous than just that. So I'm just going to be doing that while Trinette finishes her story. So now you have become the face of, and look how interested the brands got really super fast, right?
Yeah.
It
Because
was immediate.
there was definitely something missing, right?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. And I hope to see more girls like me.
Yeah.
I really, really want that for our industry, and also like just for brands in general to really embrace not just also, I mean, I know we're on the topic of colorism and all of that, but there's also a lack of representation in size and in different facial features and different of course there's skin color and hair, and like I feel like for shampoo brands, maybe they can start incorporating girls with curly hair now and not the same like
So do you
hair.
feel you've not seen that representation? I can't say I've noticed. I find obviously shampoo commercials are fairly absurd in that nobody's hair like moves like that. It's so computerized. I mean, I don't watch a lot of TV, but the last time I saw a shampoo commercial, it's that unctuous kind of nobody's hair moves like that.
Hair moves
I think we've had also a generation of Photoshop happy everyone, be it the graphic designers, be it the ad people, be it the magazines, be it people on Instagram, filter face, which I was discussing with you on our shoot. Filter face is a real thing. People have got so used to altering who they are that you are not comfortable with who you are.
Who you are, because you're so busy trying to look like something else, right?
Yeah, and then this plastic surgery jazz, and don't get me wrong, if you have something that bothers you and you have the money and the confidence to fix it, more power to you. But I do think it's very frightening that everybody wants to look like a clone and has the access to the money and the sort of surgeons who can make them all look the same. It's very sad to me as a makeup artist because there's beauty in the individual. If everybody is the same face, that's a bit boring. Like if you think about like the 90s, which is the time when I was a teenager and coming up and looking at those faces, if you think about Cindy and Christy and all of the supers of the time, Helena Christensen, they each had such, Naomi, they had such unique faces, and Iman, and it was a time, I feel, of a lot of representation. The models looked healthy, they had muscle tone, they were not this crazy, those pelvic bones sticking out, kind of scrawny, Christy Turlington, Cindy Crawford, Linda, these were healthy, fit bodies, which is why they still look healthy and fit. This was not this anorexia sort of situation, but each of their faces was so unique, and we don't even think about it, but Christy Turlington was South American and something, it was already quite a Helena Christensen is Danish, you know. Linda, I don't know, is just so extraordinarily different, you know. And Cindy is warm skinned enough to be a desi. In fact, it was Cindy Crawford's skin that growing up, I thought, wow, how lucky we are that we have these skin tones that we can do this Cindy Crawford caramel kind of, you know, contours and whatever. So I saw desi skin as a playground, you know, that wow, we can do this Cindy Crawford, you know, tawny, gorgeous camel tone kind of skin. But they had such individual faces. And I feel like now, I mean, there's a moment where, I mean, I don't want to diss anyone, so I'm not going to say her name, but one of the models was voted as the most perfect face. But she's had so much plastic surgery, and you can see her before and after where, you know, it's that crazy, you know, that pulled up, those cat eyes and these really redone nose. And oh, that's not a perfect face. Hey, what's a perfect face? It's not her face, it's a false face. And you are teaching people that the most perfect face is a plastic surgery face. That's very worrying to me.
Yeah, I feel that I mean, of course, to each their own. You know, I mean, if you can afford it and if it's something that
But
bothers
not to
you,
each their own
but
if you've been brainwashed to like it.
absolutely. And also, I feel if it is what it is, then I just don't like it when people don't admit to it. I think that is my problem with it. So if you have gotten something done to your face, don't lie about it. I feel that is the biggest fault in it all, because then you're making people believe that you actually look this way when you don't.
Right.
So be honest about what you've done and stay true to that, you know.
So I feel like Instagram is moving towards this also, where it is a case of now if you use a filter, you have to say you're using a filter.
Yeah.
Which I think is really good because honestly, even as a practicing makeup artist, now you can see we're kind of giving a glow back. I'm just going to give you one more spritz just to melt that down. So when you pop in your highlighter, it's a really good idea to, you know, give it a spritz because then each particle of shimmer becomes like a pool of molten gorgeousness. And then when that goes right into the skin, and you can see I'm just patting it lightly. Now, if Trinette looks left and right for you, you'll be able to see, well, somewhat mimicking what, you know, what God does way better than we
I
do.
love that. Oh
Yes?
my God, yeah.
Oh, is this not something you do, boo?
I mean, yeah, but the way that you've done it.
I love it.
And also you've like worked in layers, right?
Always.
So that really just does something.
Yeah, it really
to the
does.
skin.
Yeah, I love that. I'm all about the thin layers, you know, for your face. Now, just to set up the next part of programming, guys. So we so we have done the skin, and now what I wanted to show you is like a classic desi look, which is you know kajal, smoky kind of eye, and it's interesting because in the research for this, so Trinette and I were like trying very hard to be like you know we're gonna be academics about this, and you know
very much.
model and makeup artists like reading books, trying to be educated about this.
I'm always trying to educate myself. I feel
Yeah.
that's so important.
Totally.
You know, I mean, always.
And in the research of it, I found it so interesting because I have this book, which is a textbook, which is, by the way, yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting book. It's, you know, one of those rare textbooks on makeup. It's called Fashions in Makeup from Ancient to Modern Times by Richard Corson. It's a series like a textbook. And what was interesting was I couldn't really find too much on South Asian beauty and you know, there's about Arab beauty, there's about Egyptian beauty, but nobody really seems to know when we started doing surma and kajal and why. And even I asked my PhD husband to try and find something for me, and I mean, he didn't have too much time to spare, but he also said there doesn't seem to be any sort of easy resource to find about this, and that in itself tells you something that none of us are thinking about this, researching this, writing about this, and correct me if I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, please, guys, send us the links, or if any of you know anybody who's doing this kind of work. I certainly couldn't find it. I would love to know more about, why we do what we do and how long we've been doing it for. Um, but we decided we would sort of look up, the ubiquitous, whether you're from a big city or whether you're from, a smaller village, a rural sort of background, the Kajal Surma situation across Pakistan, India, and, Trinette is also somewhat from Nepal, where
Yeah.
we're from.
So from my dad's side, Madras, and from my mom's side, Nepal.
So your
I'm
mom's mom?
My mom's mom.
So 3 generations ago.
But I'm Pakistani. I'm
course.
born and bred, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my
But Nepali, some
ancestors,
Nepali
yeah.
heritage.
Nepali and Madras. So
Are they also sort of Kajal wearers? I don't know too much about Nepal.
about Nepal, I mean, I suppose so, because my grandma, my mom's mom, she is a big Kajal wearer, or at least was. And my mom is. So yeah, I assume that.
So, I mean, it seems like people seem to think that it helps with eye infections and it helps keep your eyesight clear and it, all that jazz. And what I could, let's say, surmise from what I was coming across was that, sort of Indian classical dance in temples, which, date back thousands of years, they're sort of depicted with that sort of super kajali kind of eye, that extended kajal. So that seemed to have been from way beyond. But this I found so interesting. So it's not Indian subcontinent, but it is Egyptian. And look at how complex it is. They had, can you guys see? This is a box with 5 separate, what would you call them? Tubes joined together, which you can dip this stylus into. The stylus is that. And they had different colored kajals. And if you did black inside, so Cleopatra right here, it says Cleopatra would put black on the inside, green on top, blue on top, green below. So it was already, fairly sophisticated way back when, And this is like, what is it saying, 3000 BC, they had this level of eyeshadow. And so one stick was for eyeshadow. It wasn't mixed. These were powders.
Okay.
And they would lick it mostly and put it on, or make sure their skin had an emollient so it would grab the pigment. So I kind of thought it was only going to be like kajals that they were making, but they were fine powders on sticks that they would, like eyeshadow.
That's so cool.
I really didn't think that I would sort of come across that. And then the other thing that they mention here, which is quite interesting, and Rimmel, the makeup company, seems to be, something that this guy, they seem to have done their research, but they sort of say that the coal comes from Arabia, wherever that may be, but that Arabians would line their eyes, and it was made with lemon rind and burnt copper, and you place it on a fire until it's carbonized. And of course, there was lots of. It's so interesting. Look, there. This was then pounded in a mortar with coral, sandalwood, pearls. I'm not sure what ambergris is. The wing of a bat. Okay, then. And part of the body of a chameleon. The whole having been previously burnt to a cinder and moistened with rose water while hot. I don't think I'd be buying that, Kajal.
Yeah.
Just gonna say.
I'm a boss.
I'm
But that's so interesting.
interesting,
right?
yeah.
It is so interesting.
I'm totally good without the bat wing chameleon kajal.
Half a chameleon, was it? Could you imagine?
And now let me put kajal in your, and you're going to be like, show me that. Show me the
Oh my
product.
That's
That's too funny.
That's hilarious.
So have you always been a kajal? What's your beauty look? Just what you do.
My beauty look. So I've had quite a journey with makeup.
So
I
when
must say.
did you come to the point from 4-year-old little Trinette being picked on?
Yeah.
And your parents, I'm assuming, saying,
It's okay, child. Yeah.
you're gorgeous,
Yeah.
it's fine. You have every right to be considered.
Yeah.
Especially you're so cute. I don't know
thank
how
you.
anyone would not be able to. So how did you
So
sort
are
of
you.
come to how did you come to a place where you started to see yourself as the cutie you are?
So I think for most of my I think this is a very recent thing, this Trinette that you see today. It's rather recent. No, I must say, because I've always been a very I want to say like insecure. I was a very insecure child, and then as a teenager, not so much. But then as a teenager, I got to a point where I started to sort of be very racist to my own self, I want to say.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, because that was sort of like a defense mechanism that I embodied. You understand? So before anyone could call me or make a joke about me, I'd make a joke about myself and just laugh with them.
Like
because,
self-defense.
yeah, because that I didn't know how else to deal, and I didn't want to be upset about something I couldn't change. So I decided that, look, this is who I am. I'll just laugh with you. It's fine. If you think this is funny, then I'll laugh with you at it. But you look really stupid laughing, but it's okay. I'll laugh with you. And so,
wow, Trinette, that's
yeah.
a stand to take.
Yeah, and at such a young age, I have to say, I was only maybe 14, 15, 16, like, around that time. And then I think awareness really, and also just having to see all these brands, like even international brands like Fenty and all these different brands that started to represent.
Starting to have a conversation.
Yeah, and I really think it was the representation for me, Bina. I have
really?
to say, it really was.
No
it
way.
was. It was looking at all these women, all these YouTubers and these beauty gurus and just celebrities, like dark-skinned women, just so powerful and talking about themselves and giving me that confidence, because I could finally relate, and I didn't feel so alone anymore. You see? So when you see representation, when you see girls like you, women like you, doing all the things that these other people are doing, you just feel empowered, and that confidence it was always there, but I didn't know how to channel it, because I didn't feel confident amongst people who didn't look like me. So I think that, it's been a few years now, and now I can say that, yeah, I'm at that place. Now I'm still learning. I still have days where I think we all do, where when you look at yourself in the mirror, you don't like what you see, and then you have days where you're like, wow, no one looks like me, So I still have those days, but for the most part, I've really just learned to love myself, and I think that is a constant journey, that relationship that you build with yourself. It's unlike any other relationship. There's a lot of acceptance, there's a lot of learning and growth, and just being mindful of your own self-love and your own, yourself, really, to just be and feel empowered it's a journey.
Everything, yeah.
So yeah.
It's very interesting, and this comes back to another sort of South Asian thing. The voice you have in your head towards yourself tends to be the voice of negativity that you've grown up hearing, whether it's your parenting or the bullying you've received. We tend to take that negative, isn't it strange? We forget the positive reinforcement, and what plays in your head and the way you speak to yourself.
That's so true.
Is often using the same, because we're impatient with ourselves, we'll use the same slurs and the same negative way of speaking to ourselves as we've grown up with. Now, if you've been unfortunate enough to have a harsh upbringing that's really bad for you, because the voice is very unkind, but even just generally, our South Asian parents are not the best.
Yeah.
At positive reinforcement,
That's true.
We get a lot of, like, if you're feeling yourself, your mom will be like, just calm down.
Yeah.
Just relax, babes. They bring you down to, calm down. So, close. When you hear sometimes your friends from different cultures and how, their parents are talking to them, I don't want to diss my mom. She did her best. She spoke to me the way she was spoken to. Which was always very kind, but the urge to stop you from having a big head is so strong, that they'll be like, okay, I know you're feeling good, but stop now.
Yeah, come back down to
Back down.
planet Earth.
They panic if you have too much
and also
confidence.
the desi sarcasm. that
Of course.
our parents, the sarcasm that your Desi parents have is unmatched.
It's kind of genius too. I mean, I
It
live
is.
for it.
It
I
is.
live for it, and that's why so many of our sort of South Asian comedy is so good. Is indeed when they sort of, there was one doing homework with a South Asian parent, and of course you said the wrong answer, and there's no help with why you got the wrong answer or here's how not to have the wrong answer. You just got a thupper.
That's really not funny.
It's
The
like-
fact that we laugh at stuff like that is so problematic. But
Well, I mean, it wasn't a
Yeah.
hard thupper.
yeah, but still.
Just gentle thupper and
Yeah.
do it again. Now we've got it wrong, right? Nothing has changed in this thupper. Okay, how are we supposed to do this again with more success? There's always an impatience, and now you sit down and you try it again with So the way I think we speak to ourselves, and I think our parents do what they can do, and especially with diasporas, I feel when people leave Pakistan and they settle in London or they settle in Canada or they settle in wherever, you really cling to your culture and you really cling to your heritage. I mean, I grew up in London, and I sort of came back came back to Karachi I was around 11, 12. And I would say that, your kind of PR for your culture is, and now of course when I'm in London as well, you feel a fondness for your culture in a way that when you're living here, you're just impatient of it or you take it for granted. So I think there is that thing where our parents, especially when they move abroad, and so many courageously moved in the 60s and 70s when there was no internet to look up Yelp reviews of where to live. I don't know how they did it. How did they do it?
I have no idea.
When Aziz Ansari has a great bit on stand up, he was like, "How did you guys saw what you saw like a postcard and thought that was like a nice place to live?"
I mean, come to think of it, right? Like they just really just packed all their belongings and
they just
went for it.
Went for it, So I've taken the kajal, by the way, guys, and I smeared it around as you saw, and now I'm coming in with some beautiful bronze eyeshadow. So I get that gorgeous, smoky but yummy kind of look. So I mean, I feel like our parenting is, they are doing the best they can. Their parents did the best they could. We'll do the best we can, and our kids will be going, well, I guess they did the best they could, and so it goes on. But it's what we have to understand is our privilege with social media and brands like, so many of them talking about skin positivity, some leading it and some little bit sort of just riding the wave, not
Some
being.
people just, when something's trending, they hop on the bandwagon and then everything just dies down and so do they, right? But that's the thing, I think you can tell when a brand is being genuine about a certain cause and when they're just doing it just because they think they have to.
Yeah, so there's a reason why I think Rihanna's brand has been so,
fundamental in this change,
Yeah, she herself is a certain, I'm sure she's faced, and it's that reverse thing, which even I understand, if she's got green eyes, she's a little bit fairer, and when you don't actually receive praise for it, can I just say, you receive like this, well, what do you know about XYZ struggle? Because you're also just like, if I would say to somebody, why don't you embrace your skin tone? I would get quite a lot of, I don't want to say aggression, but it would be pushed back with, but why are you telling me this? You don't know what my struggle is, babe. With you sort of lighter eyes and whatever. There's always, it's not like somebody goes, wow, you're so lucky you look like this. And when they do, that's creepy too. But, so for Rihanna, I would love to know what her experience is as sort of a lighter Asian woman with, green eyes. But she's the one come out with, talking with so much love about, black beauty and brown beauty. And it's been such a force for good. And I really think she's the commercial, at least, standard bearer. And she's driven the conversation in this direction. Also, she's driven a natural conversation. Like her cover on the cover of Allure, had the least photoshopping I've ever seen. Like you could see her baby fuzz, you could see her paws.
There was fine lines that everyone has, you know.
There was a pimple, and I'm thinking back to when we were kids, you were used to seeing those things. And now when you have somebody come, I literally have girls going, oh, but I can still see my lines. And I'm like, well, you're human, you have lines, that they've been taught because of this wrong
It's the
representation.
conditioning, I feel, even like on the topic of what you said earlier, like with your parents, I know that they're all our parents, they try their best, but I do feel like even they are a product of this conditioning, that we're all products of that same conditioning, that this is what beautiful is and this is not, and this is how you should be and this isn't how you should be. And I feel that now we can finally have that conversation. Like, if I talk about my parents, I don't think they could have had this kind of a conversation, but I can sit down with my parents and try and tell them how I feel, and vice
they
versa.
listen.
And they listen.
They'll listen.
And so that has also, I see a shift in that as well. And also, like, I feel like things are really changing now. Like, I see the light now, and that makes me so happy, because I feel like things are only going to get better from here. And I really hope that things get better from here. Just the fact that someone like me is sitting here and having this conversation with you, I think that is the change that we hope for and that we wish to see. So yeah, like,
so maybe 14-year-old you or 4-year-old you, I doubt, would have been sitting and listening to a beauty chat, but
yeah,
a younger you, if you saw a conversation, and that's why Trinette was keen to do this, and I'm always keen to do this, is
I was really happy to be
Right?
here. Yeah,
she said the same thing that I say, which is, if even one girl is watching this and changes her mind about, how to deal with when somebody says something to you that, you're not pretty, attractive, or oh, you're so dark, as if that's the thing to say. Yes, I am. The sky is also blue, and it's so obvious. Like, why are we discussing this? So if even one girl has the confidence to see, handle a situation like that with less distress, even one person, we feel good about what we've done.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true, because I mean, sometimes I get DMs from people saying things like, wow, you look just like me, and you're so pretty, and you've given me confidence. And I feel like it's just a completely different feeling when you have someone say something like that to you, like you made a little difference in their life. And I feel
probably not a little.
Yeah,
probably
but
a lot.
probably, I hope so. But I mean, even if it's just that one person, who says that to you, I just feel like all of this is so worth it. Then, like, all of this, and it gives me more confidence to continue, and to keep at it. Because, and I also feel like sometimes, especially in the beginning, my skin was exoticized a little bit.
I was going to ask you about that. Is
So,
it that you're being used? Did you ever feel used?
I mean, I don't know if used is the right word, but I have felt sometimes that, especially after the whole Black Lives Matter movement, that this skin color, that, brown is beautiful, it did become sort of like a trend. And now, I thought that I was just part of that trend, you see. But the fact that I'm still here, I'm still around, just reiterates the very fact that maybe that wasn't a trend, and maybe, like, our industry really is just looking for change now. I mean, because I just feel like if there's no change, if there's no diversity, everything just seems to look monotonous and redundant. And who likes that? No one wants that, There's so many different kinds of people. There's so much diversity in our own culture. And we must embrace all of that. I mean, we have a long way to go. But, I mean, it's safe to say that the change has definitely started.
I mean, I would say this, that when I was a kid in our industry, it didn't matter if you had moral features or, if you looked at all, like, whether you were photogenic. If you were fair, you were in. You were in. You could be a model, no problem. short, tall, of course it'll be thin as well. These are the
Yeah,
two
thin
things,
and
right?
fair.
Thin and fair, and you're sorted. And, when you see these sort of, till date though, when it comes to sort of women's worth. So if you sort of look at like a Rishta type, Shadi.com or whatever, like, there is still this focus on girl must be fair. There's still um, value assigned to somebody being fair. And I know this has its own history and there is colorism just
Conditioning, yeah.
conditioning globally, right? And I don't want to touch too much on this because we're not historians, but obviously there's a sort of a history to people who look fairer getting advancement, and so that seems to have seeped into our culture so strongly that people who will go for a job interview, and for example with women, if they have a bit of makeup on, they're like X% amount more likely to get, hired, or if they're fairer, or if they speak the language that the employer wants, them to be speaking, which is, let's face it, usually English.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I are sitting here having a conversation in English. Why? It speaks of a certain history.
That's true.
So it's hard to get rid of this idea, which came down before to sort of advancement and acceptability. But now you're in charge of your own destiny, but you're still carrying on this internalized racism against each other.
Against each other.
Like, just why? Like, why? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Why? It really is sad. It's sad, and I also feel like there's not enough conversation on this subject. Like I feel like these kinds of talks, they need to be more. There needs to be more of this.
Yeah.
And I also feel like also the kind of things that we talk about on social media, only a certain audience gets access to that kind of information. So I feel like there's so many other people in our country that don't get to be a part of any of this.
Yeah.
And so we need to also start thinking in terms of like how do we then reach everyone.
Yeah.
And different people who live in different places, and people who
Yeah.
speak different languages, and like that is obviously a different conversation to have, but that is something that also needs to be taken into consideration. Like how can we involve everyone, not
Yeah.
just a certain amount of people.
Yeah, and there's that other side of it, which we face internalized racism because we've grown up here.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the experience is of growing up outside of South Asia, and I'm sure there must be a lot of pressure to, from society at large. But then there's also that internal pressure of, to get married, you better be fair and you better be, X, Y, Z. And I think, it's probably, I would guess, from the few people I know who have grown up there, and one of my dear friends, who's in fact in broadcast journalism, it's the same thing where not only are you picked on within your community for being a certain color, of course you're going to be picked on in school, and you feel a little bit unsafe because of your skin color, which is a pretty crazy thing if you really think about, like, what do you know about me as a human because of my skin color?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Why should my skin color be a disadvantage, right? It's almost looked at as a disadvantage. Like, oh, and you don't have the same opportunities. And I'm sure it's so much more different, abroad. Like, to be South Asian in a place where there aren't many South Asians, I guess. And if we experience this kind of internalized racism here, I can only imagine what the people who don't live here, who live elsewhere, must go through.
Yeah, and
we do this to ourselves here.
We do this to ourselves, and I would say that as your community gets smaller, it's harsher, right? Like for example, we feel as Karachiites, I think, it's a much more open place to be, because it's a very working city. Yeah. It's a lot of professionals.
A lot more diversity also.
A lot of diversity. The history of Karachi is, Parsis and Hindus who, made the city in the first place. And lots of us have come from India, and it's a real melting pot. And also, we are worker bees. It's like the drone city. We're all at work all the time. Yeah, we're very, very business centric. We create businesses, we do business. We're very professional. I think in other parts of Pakistan, there's even more focus on like fairness. Like I feel like in the north and Punjab,
Yeah.
I think it's even harsher, and we have it the easiest because we're such a mix of communities. Whereas when you have a diaspora, um, just through feeling, I would say, shy, people don't necessarily interact. And I'm sure also with having had bad experiences, you don't amalgamate, you kind of, I've noticed that lots of communities, not just the South Asian community, but, communities kind of keep to themselves a little bit.
Because they know that they're different
That-
and they don't fit
Yeah,
in.
and they're safe within their own community. But in a small community, then the issues that we are talking about that are kind of, there's milk being added to the tea where it's like less cut up, like things are chilling out a little bit. If you kept small, it just reinforces itself, and it's a lot more intolerant, it feels, of breaking out and accepting change and difference, just because I feel like our parents are frightened for their kids. So you're not encouraged to, God knows where you'll end up. You'll be so different. I feel that over here also, that, when you see kids today simply because of social media, the difference between the parent and the kid is like 12 generations, not one. The mother is not in charge anymore. The child has to help her get on Instagram, and, the child is in charge, because things have moved so quickly. But I would like to think that with social media, we are getting to that place where we're all having these conversations. And Trinette and I, sitting in Karachi, are having a conversation, I hope, with a bunch of people, whoever's tuned in, wherever they are in the world. But the message is always the same, is that we kind of make our own lives harder for ourselves
Really.
and for our kids. And it can't be about something as frankly unchangeable as skin. What are you going to do? Are you saying that X% of the population are just no good forever? That's it.
Just because they are darker.
That's crazy. It's
That's
such a crazy
insane,
idea.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, it's actually really, really silly because it makes absolutely no sense. This is something that you cannot change. And why should you ever
Why
want
should
to
you?
have to?
And you know what? It's the one thing we've decided to focus on, right? Like, if I always think about this, like, if aliens came from outer space and were looking down at our planet, skin is one thing we've decided to focus on. Suppose it was, I don't know, texture of hair or length of fingernails or God knows, it could have been anything. But we've chosen to focus on something really to like a life changing level. And it's so like you can't do anything about it. And why should you want to do? Like the fairness creams that have changed their names, right? And it's like been seen as a big win that the fairness cream has changed its name. I'm not going to say which one. Okay, you've changed your name. You're still a fairness cream.
Yeah, you still have the same product
you
and like the
didn't-
same ingredients in your product. So
You didn't-
not much has
You didn't
changed.
change the purpose of your product. You just try to put a little brown bow on it. That's what you did.
Yeah.
So then when if you were to talk to your 14-year-old self today, what would you like if you found a kid in that situation? What would
In the
you
same
say?
situation as me.
What could you have heard? Because I'm hoping we have some kids watching us.
Yeah.
What would you have heard that would have changed how you felt about yourself?
I think if a child came up to me, or if I knew that there's a child going through the same thing, first of all, I would get really emotional because it hits home, for me. But firstly, I just look at the child and I just call that child beautiful, honestly, because I feel like that was missing. No one looked at me and just told me, look, you look beautiful.
Look at you, you're so gorgeous, man.
Thank you.
Crazy. Isn't it crazy that you didn't hear that all the time?
Yeah, but I didn't hear that a lot, honestly. I mean, when your parents see it, it's different, right?
Yeah.
But like when I'd go out and I, you know what, Bina, the thing with me is that I always knew I looked different. I always knew that I'm different. Like when I walk into a room, people are gonna look at me and know that wait, she looks not like us. So I just like call that child beautiful, and I just tell that child that look, I mean, it's gonna get better, and just like embrace who you are. You know, just embrace who you are, because people will have lots of things to say and people will always have things to say. But you have to learn to love yourself first. That is the most important thing. If you don't love who you are, then no one's going to ever, because then anyone can say anything to you and you'll believe them, right?
Yeah.
So you have to really just embrace who you are. And I mean, to say that to a 4-year-old, I mean, I'm pretty sure that 4-year-old won't understand. So I
But a
just say
14-year-old would.
a 40, yeah, I just say embrace who you are, man, and just learn to love yourself. It's going to be a journey, but start today. Just look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're beautiful, because everyone is beautiful, in my opinion. We all are unique in our own way, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't believe in the word ugly. I really hate that word, and I hate using that word.
Yeah.
I don't think there is such a thing as ugly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Especially an ugly 4-year-old. You've got to be some kind of weirdo to look at a
You have
4-year-old
to be
and not want to just squeeze the living daylights out of them.
4-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, how can you? What is an ugly 4-year-old? You know, what is an ugly person actually? As a makeup artist, and when I train makeup artists, I talk about this all the time. When somebody comes to me, I don't go, oh no, she's got this, and I better fix that. I'll just be like, oh, look, she's got the cheeks and the ooh, and I
So
can do
much
that,
to
and
yeah.
yeah, there's really so much to love, and I feel like this even like about art when people are like, oh, you know, modern art is just nonsense. I'm like, well, you're just denying yourself an experience. So if we're so close-minded that we only like, you know, this tunnel vision version of what we think of as beautiful, the only person who's losing out on seeing the beauty in the world is you. You're making your world a much more boring place and a
Smaller
much
place.
less beautiful
Yeah.
place and a much smaller place. So it's really, you know, up to us to change this. And I feel really privileged that we're in a position where, you know, I get a Trinette to, you know, who's in my industry, and I can easily call her up and say, hey, you know, I want you for a shoot and please come. And I really think we're privileged to be in a time when we're all talking about not just skin, but so many other issues. I think the problem is we're not very good at listening to each other, and I think we probably need to get a bit better at that. We all become a little bit too intolerant, and I think social media encourages that, the nasty comments and the, you know, being unkind to each other. There's a lot of unkindness, and you know, of course, the algorithms that help you double down on your views, they just keep giving you more of what you want to see. You're not seeing the world as a whole, so reading books and all that jazz is super important. But we're in a very lucky time when we can talk to each other and share with each other things like, you know, Trinette's experience. That I'm so honored that you were kind enough to
Thank you so much.
talk about all this so openly. And I'm so sorry you've been through anything, and I hope it's
No,
all
no,
got
no, not
erased
at all. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
check you out, you know.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your feed, because I was so happy to see this coming out of Pakistan, and rich in color and life is such
Yes,
an amazing,
absolutely.
such an amazing, you know, word for it. So I was really thrilled to see it, and I'm super proud of you
Thank
and
you so much.
proud to be a Karachiite with you. Cape Town, baby, that's right.
Yes, girl.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank South Asian Heritage Month and, of course, the British Council for having me back again for the second year in a row, and National Heritage Lottery. I hope those of you watching enjoyed this, and I hope you guys, you know, feel a little bit better about yourself, or feel like maybe there's a friend who you've not been that positive to, or a cousin, or a, you know, or an aunt you have to have a conversation with. You know, I hope that gets you thinking and that you are feeling great about yourself. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.